Hey everyone, it's Sam with Wrestling Overtime with your Raves and Rants review of WWE Raw on April the 6th, 2020. And of course, this started off with Byron Saxton and Tom Phillips talking about the WrestleMania that could not be held in just one night, that it was just way too big. Well, as we talked on the WrestleMania Raves and Rants review shows. Yes, 18 matches was too much to hold in one night, that they had to go to two. But did we really need all 18 of those matches? Some of those matches were fairly worthless. So, we're going to talk about that and kind of refer to that as we go. But, of course, they wanted to start the show off tonight, and I don't blame them, with Brock versus Drew McIntyre. And what they did was typical WWE Raw and SmackDown flashbacks of a pay-per-view. They kind of show it almost in slow motion or in picture format, slideshow format. And the thing was, the Drew and Brock match was, I don't want to say it was short, but, well, it was short. Not compared to Goldberg and Braun's, but, at 4.5 minutes, it was fairly short. I'm shocked that they didn't go ahead and show the match. However, I absolutely loved the very end of that flashback where they showed kind of a great picture of Drew up on the ring post. You could see the WrestleMania sign in the background, and then they had spotlighted Brock Lesnar laying on the mat, and it was the perfect shot that WWE captured, probably for all of WrestleMania. Yes, I know the leap that Kevin Owens took, they got a great picture of that also. But I think that picture of Drew really signifies what that main event really was supposed to be about. It was Drew's comeback moment of having been fired from the WWE, having to leave and go out into the indie circuit, remake his character, re-get on with a company and work his way back through the system, change his look, almost change his talk about he was going to portray himself, and then to come back to WWE and finally get the title. And so that in and of itself, WWE did a really great job of telling that story and really capturing that ending moment with that picture. And I'm extremely impressed with that. I like they immediately, after they show that and talk about it a little bit, they open up with the lasers shining that they had set up for WrestleMania, going every which way, making the stage area look more Raw-esque, more SmackDown-esque, more like we would see if we were actually going to attend a Raw. And of course then, Asuka's music hits, and you guys know how I have been feeling about Asuka. I am enjoying her transformation. I know I said previously in a previous episode that, obviously they had to quit the green mist gimmick because of the coronavirus being airborne, and they didn't want her spitting that, and kind of logistics of making sure that everyone is safe and making sure that everyone watching on TV knows that everyone's safe. So they kind of took that out of her repertoire. But I feel like since she brought the green mist back and the evil, borderline sadistic Asuka back, but yet the fun, cocky, taunting Asuka that dances around, yells at you in Japanese, and when she does speak English, it is, to tell you how easy peasy it's going to be. The thing that I wanted to know was, where's Kairi Sane? I mean, it's like she comes, she goes. I know that there was a lot of speculation. Was Kairi Sane gonna be even at WrestleMania? And she was. For those of you who don't know, I can kind of continue to tell this little short story. Kairi Sane went and got married, and it's my understanding went on her honeymoon. Well, before she could do any kind of wrestling or anything like that, she had to self-quarantine. And that put her coming back about the week they were taping WrestleMania. That's why she wasn't in any of the pre-WrestleMania segments that Asuka was pulling double duty in on both Raw and SmackDown and commentating and everything else. But since she was actually in the WrestleMania match, a little confused why Kairi Sane's not out there. They didn't give us a reason. So it seems like she comes and she goes. Now, what I'm thinking, number one, I think that the Raw after WrestleMania probably was most of it taped before actual WrestleMania. And so Kairi may not have been cleared yet to be there for Asuka at this match. But I'm going to be real honest with you. I kind of hope she goes away and stays away. I love Asuka as a singles wrestler. And people tell me that Kairi Sane is great. I just don't see it yet. And you guys had to listen to me how many episodes talk about Kairi wearing the belt around her neck, which I absolutely hate. So I kind of hope she disappears because I want singles wrestler Asuka back. And so then we get Liv Morgan's music hitting, and they talk up Lynn's win in WrestleMania that she had over 90. And as soon as they started talking that up, it was just going to be a matter of time before Asuka basically killed her. Because Byron Saxton almost does that normally. I mean, it's just a regular thing that whoever's gonna lose, that's whose name he wants to mention first, and he wants to bring out all their accolades and why they're gonna win and really root for them in the beginning. And it seems like he does that to try to put them over, knowing they're gonna take a loss. And of course, that is what he does with Liv. Now, Liv did get some nice offensive moves going and everything. The Hurricane Rana that she did off the ropes, I thought needed a little work. I absolutely, Asuka's still doing a lot of her taunting dance moves. She talked to Liv in Japanese, and as Liv was hitting her, it was almost like in Japanese she was saying more, or harder, harder. I still want that Japanese translator to tell me exactly what Asuka, is saying, because I want to know if she's just shouting cow, or whether she really is saying, hey, hit me harder, But Asuka quickly pretty much took back over with a super kick, and then she did a knee to the face, and Liv actually made a comeback. And I thought, wonder if we're going to tell this story a little different, because Liv hit a code breaker, and then she bulldogged Asuka, and I thought, what are we going to do here? Are we going to make this a little longer? Are we going to tell a story where maybe Liv gets the better or does some shenanigans or something to make Asuka mad? But no, Asuka ended up grabbing her and German suplexing her and then hit a Shining Wizard. She tried for the pin, and of course, Liv got out of that and, on, I believe, the count of two. And then it was just a matter of time of Asuka getting her in the right position to get her in the Asuka lock. And of course, Liv tapped. Now they stayed on Asuka. They're getting used to, hey, the fans are liking this. We got to see her dance around and she was singing her theme song before, they left. And I thought that's interesting. That's what they need to do. They need to build her up. I think that Asuka can be a formidable force getting involved in Charlotte and Ripley and Bianca and Becky and Shayna. That's who I see with them more using Bliss and Nikki Cross as the tag team champs and kind of getting them out of the singles picture. But I really think that Asuka needs to get back into that singles picture. So they immediately make it almost a women's start to the hour, to the start of the whole entire show, because they show a flashback to Shayna and Becky's WrestleMania match and how dominant Shayna was throughout that match, especially where she got the clutch on her in the ring ropes and was holding Becky at points completely up with her feet dangling. And then, of course, her grabbing her legs and knocking her head and shoulders into the announcer's table. But then, of course, they showed Becky retaining the title and, basically getting one over on Shayna. And so what they decide to do is they show Becky's post-match interview that they put up on WWE's YouTube. So if you didn't happen to see Raw when it occurred or didn't DVR it or can't on-demand it or don't want to wait for it to show up on the WWE network, you can go and see a lot of the post-match interviews on WWE's actual YouTube. And they showed that. Becky talking about how she's held the belt for almost a year now, and I think that's great. I think the title needs some stabilization. I want a lot of people fighting for it, and Becky always having to watch her back and never knowing. I know a lot of people wanted Shayna to get the belt. I actually picked Shayna to win. I thought they would give her the belt. But a lot of people think that Becky's better chasing the belt, being the hunter. And I'm not sure after seeing her work this program with Shayna, and obviously it is going to continue, because then Becky starts talking up Shayna, talking about her being, a top-ranked cage fighter for 10 years and how she believes that Shayna underestimated her and that she was always looking for some kind of counter or some way to win in that match, and that she thinks that Shayna didn't realize that. And then she pays her a very big compliment and says Shayna's skill set may be unmatched in all of WWE. And that the WrestleMania match actually became a test of heart and skill. And heart won over skill because Becky had the heart to continue, and that she knows that Shayna has an issue with the finish where she got the clutch on Becky. Becky was fading away, and then at the last minute rolled her up and got the 1, 2, 3 on her. when Shayna wasn't expecting it. So Becky immediately looks into the camera and says, Shayna knows exactly where to find me because I'm holding down the fort every week, which is so true about Becky. That's one thing that no one can say about Becky. She is in and out every week on Raw, in matches, whether they be tag team matches, them putting her in handicap matches, putting her in, 6-man tags or whatever. She's there, plus she's doing the house show circuit in and out and is available for the fans. So, yes, Shayna knows where to find her. Of course, then they go to Shayna's post-match interview from WWE's YouTube, and real unusual. There was no one interviewing her. It was basically Shayna talking to the camera. She was staring off. She still had her mouthpiece in, and it was like she was saying a mantra over and over. The thrill of victory and the agony of defeat. The thrill of victory and the agony of defeat. And finally, as I was like, what are we doing here? She throws her towel that was around her neck down and pops her mouthpiece out and chucks it, and she looks directly in the camera and says that the thrill of her victory, she promises Becky will feel the agony of her defeat, meaning because Shayna got defeated and is in so much agony right now that she wants Becky to know that she's coming after her and going to take that agony basically out on her. And then we do something, I'm going to just be real honest with you, that I felt was extremely unusual. The fact that they decided to give a extremely long segment to teams they really hadn't built up. Now, I'm not sure whether or not WWE had this planned or they were monitoring Bianca Belair's social media from the previous week's NXT, or they had been seeing numbers jump when, Bianca Belair come out with Rhea Ripley and they jumped Charlotte and took up for NXT. I'm not real sure. I'm not sure whether the last couple Raws before we hit WrestleMania that the Street Profits were getting big numbers or that they were selling a lot of merch, or I don't know what was going on. But the decision that WWE made tonight, I understand why they made it, because my first thing when they announced the Street Profits versus Angel Garza and Andrade with Zelina Vega in their corner was kind of a what scenario, kind of like I don't understand this. I mean, I know that Samoa Joe getting injured at the commercial shoot, getting a concussion, getting caught by the wellness program messed a lot of things up. I know that Seth Rollins and Buddy Murphy had the belts and that they were supposed to go into a program with Samoa Joe and Kevin Owens, and that was going to possibly lead to WrestleMania matches. I totally get that. I totally get that when he got hurt, they had to go to a more one-on-one type style, especially when one of AOP's members also got hurt. Then they decided to let Murphy and Seth Rollins drop the belts to the Street Profits. I would like to know the inside story to that. I hope one day Bruce Pritchard, after he retires and he does continues his podcast that one day he'll be able to tell us why the Street Profits were chosen instead of maybe another team. But they had the belts. I wasn't sure why Garza and Andrade were chosen. Andrade had been working a program with Humberto, Rey Mysterio, and then, of course, Garza for his United States Championship. And then all of a sudden he's put with Garza doing tag matches against Humberto and Rey Mysterio, and then it's like all of a sudden they're a tag team. And so I didn't understand that. I didn't understand why we were not publicizing someone at WrestleMania taking on Andrade for the title. Then, of course, the week before they're going to tape WrestleMania, Andrade gets hurt. He got hurt in the Ricochet Cedric Alexander match. And I believe he has 4. Don't quote me on how many, but he has rib injuries. And he had to be pulled. It had nothing to do with the pandemic or anything like that. He has a legitimate injury. So I don't blame them for throwing Austin Theory into a mix. Just not sure why it had to be for the tag team titles. Not real sure it was fair to Austin Theory. Austin Theory's 22 years old. He is going to be a superstar in the making. Reminds me of MJF with his cocky attitude and his walk and swagger. He is the future for the next 10, 15 years for WWE if they treat him right. For him to be thrown into his first Raw match, right before WrestleMania, and then having his first WrestleMania, a tag team match when he's a singles wrestler, and especially only working with Garza for a week, I thought was stupid. It was obvious, even though I wanted Garza and Theory to win because I like Theory that much, and I can't stand the Street Profits, I knew that they weren't. They were going to have to keep the belts on the Street Profits. But I didn't understand the story. I didn't understand why these two teams were even of each other. I don't get how the Street Profits got the belts and even got a chance at the belts. And I definitely didn't understand how Andrade and Garza got a chance at the belts. And then we replace Austin Theory, who's in NXT and 22 years old, with Andrade when he gets hurt. None of that made sense. Now, of course, both teams, all 4 men, really handled themselves well, last week on Raw and then at WrestleMania. But to see the flashback coming of WrestleMania, they showed almost zero of the actual match. They showed towards the ending where Ford did the frog splash and rolled Dawkins over to get the win, and how Theory and Garza got him and let Vega kick him, and how Bianca Belair come out to basically kick Vega's butt with the kiss of death. And then it showed them celebrating WrestleMania. Well, they announced that they're going to have a WrestleMania rematch for the tag team titles. And my immediate thought was, oh, great. This can go one of two ways. they're actually maybe going to put the belts on Garza and Theory. We need some kind of shock, the Raw after WrestleMania, whether it be a comeback or whether somebody getting the belts back or someone getting the belts for the first time. There's usually always some kind of surprise on the Raw after WrestleMania. So my first thought is maybe they're going to give Theory and Garza the belts. And then I thought, you know what? Belair is gonna somehow get involved in this because they've seen numbers on her and they're gonna have to get her involved somehow. And they're gonna have to bring her up. I didn't realize that she was Ford's wife. Um, I have told you guys numerous times that I have not followed NXT to the extent that I probably should have, and so I did not know that information. So it totally makes sense now why she's with the Street Profits. She also kind of fits in with them as far as her attitude and everything. However, both teams come out and it's pretty obvious, I think, that Garza and Austin Theory are singles wrestlers. And it's very obvious that they should be. They have very developed characters in their mind and who they're playing and who they want to be. They're not some guys that are looking to find themselves. No, Garza knows exactly who he wants to be. Theory knows exactly who he wants to be. The issue is them as a tag team. They're not the same. They don't have a lot of similar qualities or alike values or anything. It's basically just Vega put them together. That's basically, their connection. So in this match, we get Ford coming in after Dawkins suffers all the punishment, and Ford immediately does his DDT, and as he's setting up for the frog splash, Theory steps into the ring to get the referee's attention. And Vega gets up on the ring apron ready to knock Ford off, and basically the referee turns around in time to catch her. And so he calls, for the ring of the bell and disqualifies Garza and Theory from the match. And I was like, all right, that's great. Cool. Garza and Theory grab Ford again because he's the one that was getting ready to do the frog splash. They're doing it just like they did at WrestleMania, and they're holding him so Vega can again kick Ford. Well, again, Bianca Belair's music hit, and she comes out swinging her hair and dancing. Well, to me, that signifies you're not really worried about Vega kicking your man. Vega should have continued kicking him. I think in the time that Bianca was dancing around and twirling her hair, Vega could have got a good, 4 or 5 kicks into his face. And I think she should have did that. But, Belair comes flying into the ring and picks up Vega and basically slams her as Ford and Dawkins throw Garza and Theory out of the ring. So somebody gives Belair the mic, and she tells Vega, don't be messing with my man, basically, and says that she wants to challenge her to a match. So we then see Bianca Belair versus Zelina Vega, which is fine with me. The matches that I've seen Belair in, she's very good. She's very athletic. I did look her up as Byron Saxton pointed out, she graduated from the University of Tennessee, was on their track team. She is very, very athletic. And she is strong, as she's shown in this match. I mean, she immediately took charge of it and was hitting Vega and throwing her around and whipping her across the ring. And of course, she's doing all of her different dance moves and her hair moves. And finally, Vega slaps her, which just basically pissed Bellar off. And she started punishing her. Vega ended up moving out of the way as Belair was almost going to do a spear on her in the corner, so Belair slammed her shoulder into the ring post. And I was really glad that Vega got some offense. She did a submission move in the ropes that was really cool. Started off like she was going to do a 619 like Rey Mysterio, and ended up wrapping the ring rope around and almost doing a submission move almost like a sleeper or whatever. Of course, the ref counted to 4 and she had to break it. And then later, she did another submission move, but Belair basically just muscled out of it. And then when Vega goes to jump, she caught Vega in flight and then pressed her above her head, showing off her strength. Now, Austin Vega, of course, had to get up on the ring apron and start talking to Belair and the referee to try to get some kind of distraction going on, and Ford come over to try to take care of him. They ended up getting and falling kind of into the ring and beating on each other, which made them get disqualified again. I don't even know who won, because both of them fell into the ring. I don't think they even said who ended up winning that match. And so Ford now wants the mic, and he challenges them to a 6-person tag match. And I'm thinking, are you serious? Give me a break. When can we be done with this? We had a tag match for the championship, and we lost sight of that goal so that we could have a women's match between Belair and Vega. And now we're just going to throw the championships completely out the window, and we're going to have a 6-man tag match or 6-person tag match. Are we trying to build a storyline now? Because it's so far gone after the fact that this should have been done before WrestleMania. Because it's just now getting ridiculous that we're going to have the same 6 people involved in 3 different matches. And I am thinking, I don't like the Street Profits, and I don't know how I feel about Bianca Belair yet. But I know all 6 of them have taken up too much of my time. And I know that a lot of us are in lockdown. We're sitting at home and we've got nothing but time. But I've got other shows on my DVR that I can watch that I have for the last couple months been ignoring because of work and keeping up with Wrestling Overtime and West Virginia Overtime and Paranormal Review, all 3 of my podcasts. I can be watching them. I don't need to watch a 6-man tag with people that I have no storyline and I could care less about. But I'll just go ahead and tell you, the guys got in and punished each other, got some offense, did some moves, and basically they ended up tagging Bianca in, who then made Vega get in, and she finally hit the kiss of death on Vega to win and put us all out of our misery. And I'm telling you, I can't stand the Street Profits. I can't stand them. I used to compare them to Private Party. No, they are nothing like Private Party. I feel like they are very annoying, and it is not a love to hate heat with me. It is a go away, get off my TV screen, go back to the indies heat with me. Montel grabbing the camera and shaking it, or yelling in it, or all of them doing dance moves and the "we want the smoke," all of that to me is garbage. Now, I haven't made up my mind about Bianca Belair just because of her athleticism and the power in her movesets. However, if she continues with the Street Profits and starts acting like they do, I I don't know if I'm gonna like her. And like I said, in my opinion, Austin Theory and Angel Garza, this needs to be the end of their tag team match. This they need to continue being involved with Vega. They need to put Theory full time up on Raw, and they both need to come out and support each other. But this tag team situation needs to be over, especially when Andrade comes back. They just need to create a Vega faction where she's managing them all. They back up each other, but they're all singles wrestlers. Then we get a flashback of Aleister Black and Bobby Lashley's WrestleMania match. And, of course, if you listen to the Raves and Rants review of that match, you know how I feel about that match. It went on way too long. I feel like Aleister Black, as soon as Bobby Lashley came out of the corner to get any offense, should have hit the Black Mass, and it should have been over in about 45 seconds. I can't do it. There should have been no match whatsoever. This was a throwaway match in order to get to 18 matches and make WrestleMania too big for one night. But they show Lashley's post-match interview from YouTube, and Lashley is immediately asked, well, what happened out there? And he says, well, something makes me think that I either need new management or I need a new wife. And he just kind of sits there and looks at Charlie, and Lana walks over and says, well, what are we talking about? And Lashley's comment is nothing. And he just walks away, and Lana then says, well, what did you do to my husband? And of course, there's pretty much dead silence. And if they want to create a Lashley-Lana angle, that's cool. I'll watch that. Just don't put Lashley in matches until his contract runs out and he can go away. He can't talk on his own, and Lana, with her wanting to get involved with movies and crazy Lana getting over with the fans, I think she really needs to be with another wrestler. Not sure that she can go back with Rusev since his contract's running out, and she signed a new one. But I really, really think that something needs to be done with Lashley, and mostly that he needs to go away. Aleister Black, they talk about how he's only lost twice since becoming a singles wrestler here recently, and how he's going to take on Apollo Crews. And they kind of out of the blue threw out a little tidbit that I think shocked everyone. Tom Phillips explained that Apollo Crews has now joined the Raw program because Raw had draft picks that were ready to expire because of the Alexa Bliss Nikki Cross trade that happened. heard that and my immediate thought was, what? Who in WWE remembered that? That's awesome. We need to promote them. Let's put them in charge of creative, and we need to do it now. Let's get out Vince's checkbook, and we need to write them a check, and they need to be in charge of stuff. Because there is usually no continuity in WWE. They usually don't remember what happens from one month to the next, let alone what happened last year. So whoever thought that up, I am impressed. To get Apollo Crews on Raw, I really don't care what show he's on, but to bring out that little tidbit, I thought was excellent. That's great. Now, this match was slow. Did I say that slow enough for you? I mean, it was extremely slow at the start of it. There were a lot of lockups and wrestling moves trying to gain leverage, a lot of technical wrestling moves, which that's what Apollo Crews is known for, and Aleister Black proved that he could hold his own with him. He could take punishment. Of course, we already knew Aleister Black basically could sell, but I was shocked at how well his technical moves, because they have been portraying him as nothing but a striker over and over and over and over. And so it was great to see that, no, Aleister Black can keep up. And this was a good match. It just really wasn't interesting. It was pretty boring. There was a nice knee bar put on by Aleister Black that I had not seen him do before. And Crews crawled over to the rope. Aleister Black continued working on Apollo's knee, his left knee, and Apollo continued selling that throughout the match and really showed good selling technique. They even got Crews to kind of build up the strength to kick Aleister Black in the face twice. But when I say this match was long and slow, I do mean it. This match ended up having like 3 commercials in it. That's how long it went. And coming off the 3 matches with the Street Profits and Garza and Theory, and then Belair and Vega, these 2 segments were just way too long. And I know they're stretching it out and they want to use less wrestlers. And with Vega and Mike being a couple, and then Ford and Bianca Belair being a couple, it makes sense putting them on the same show. And I get all of the reasoning. But my gosh, it makes for this long middle segment. I was wishing that I had a concession stand. I was wishing I could just go to the concession stand and get a hot dog or some nachos or something, and it come back and this be over. I was even trying to think up, if this was live and I was in the audience, what could I be chanting? Would I be chanting, just move on, just move on? Or I would be chanting boring, or I don't know what I would be chanting. What would you be chanting during this match? That's what I need to know. Because after the whole 6-man match and then this, I was ready to beat my head against a wall. You guys really need to write me at wrestlingovertime@gmail.com, or hit me up on Wrestling Overtime's Twitter page or our Facebook page and let me know, what would you have been chanting during this basically hour-long segment of the 6-man match and then Black and Apollo Crews? You know, Crews ended up at the end being real impressive. He did a standing moonsault and then immediately went into a standing shooting star. And you know, Black ended up countering with a kick a knee to Apollo's face as he climbed up on the ring post. And then he just immediately hit the Black Mass for the win. But it was pure torture to get there. And then they flashed back to the last man standing match, which Edge and Randy Orton. And I all of a sudden thought, oh my gosh, people spend a lot of time on Twitter especially, but on a lot of the internet sites, gripe and complaining and throwing fits about how long Edge and Randy Orton went on. And I thought, is WWE, did they have these long matches where we had 3 segments of the tag team thing, and then we had Black and Cruz go on for 3 commercials? Are they trying to prove to us, hey, long matches aren't bad? Because no, by showing this flashback immediately after, it made me relive that match, which I loved. But it also was too long, and since it was taped, it needed to be edited. But what they did was, when they showed the flashback, they did edit it. And they basically only showed the highlights of it, and it was pretty good. They showed the start, they showed them in the gym, and the fantastic moves that Edge did in the gym, in the weight room, and how Randy had him up with the ring ropes. They did not show them in the storage room at all, where they were screwing around for a long period of time. They didn't show them going to the conference room or hanging out in the hallway or anything. They immediately cut to the highlights of them going into the garage and getting up on the truck and on the semi-truck and the spear and the RKO and the chair. And so it showed how great of a match that was by using the highlights. And so anyone that didn't watch WrestleMania, if you saw that on Raw, you thought, I want to see that match. Well, guess what? So did I, but that's not the match I got to see at WrestleMania. But I thought, hey, they're going to have Edge on, or they're going to have Orton on. Somebody's going to do some talking. No. We go immediately to, they have now created a new tag team. Kind of like they did Garza and Theory. They've created Cedric Alexander and Ricochet. What? Why? They tried to explain throughout the match that they knew each other before WWE, had been friends. They have a lot of the same styles of high flying, very quick move sets, and that they fit well together. Yeah. So do a lot of other wrestlers. Why are we putting Ricochet in a tag team? Have we gave up on Ricochet? I know I asked that a couple episodes ago, but really, have we gave up and are we burying Ricochet? I know why they're pushing Cedric Alexander. It's because Big Swole on AEW made a big comment about her husband and threw it up in Britt Baker's face. And they, that got the internet stirring and got interest in Cedric Alexander. So I totally understand why WWE is using that to kind of push them. But to put them in a tag team, I was just like, oh, okay. And then they're taking on Henri Lorcan and Danny Bush from NXT. And I'm thinking, this is one of the tag teams that you're kind of trying to build on NXT. Why are you going to have them come up here and basically get crushed by this new tag team that you're developing? Because you know that that's what's going to happen. they immediately started comparing Cedric Alexander and Ricochet to the Street Profits. And I was like, what? What are you talking about? I don't know that I've heard Cedric Alexander say more than 2 sentences at a time. Ricochet's okay on the mic, but he's nothing spectacular, and all the Street Profits do is talk. The Street Profits have been a tag team for a while now. They actually have double team moves, they have tag team moves, they have tag team strategy. Ricochet and Cedric Alexander don't have any of that. Why are you comparing them to the Street Profits? Is that where you're headed with this? Are you going to put these two teams against each other? Anyway, they also talk about the high-flying quick style versus the smash mouth style that Lorcan and Birch have. And, I'm just going to kind of skip to the end. They tried a kind of a double team move in the last basic 15 to 30 seconds of the match. It worked out okay. It was basically two singles wrestlers' moves put together. It really wasn't a double team tag team finisher or anything like that. But Ricochet and Cedric Alexander won, and no shock there. But just my mind is blown that they've gave up on Ricochet so fast. I mean, think about it. It was Super Showdown. It was a month and a half, 2 months ago. He's in Saudi Arabia taking on Brock as a singles wrestler. And now we have buried him in 2 months. It's sad, actually, is what it is. It's just sad. Then we get the flashback of Seth Rollins versus Kevin Owens WrestleMania match, and I absolutely love Kevin Owens jumping off the sign onto the table to nail Seth Rollins. He did get his WrestleMania moment, and I love the pictures that they showed of that. And then they say that they caught Kevin Owens earlier today to, tape this interview, and we see Kevin Owens. It almost looks like maybe he's standing outside of the Performance Center, or maybe kind of where people park their cars, maybe in a garage covered area or something like that. And he starts talking about how the last 5 months of his career has been hell, because all he wanted to do is get Seth Rollins in the ring alone. And I was sitting there going, amen, me too, KO, me too. I wanted you and Seth Rollins to fight. I did not want to see all the different combinations of you and Samoa Joe and the Viking Raiders against Seth and Buddy Murphy and AOP, because we got every combination, 8-man tags, 6-man tags, 2-on-2, this, that, disqualifications, people interfering. It was a long 5 months, Kevin Owens. I totally agree. And he says, I questioned myself. He admitted, I asked if it was all worth it. And I was thinking, me too, Kevin. Me too. I thought, is this going to be worth it? Are we going to get a match all of these 5 months? Are we going to see the match the WWE Universe deserves? And Kevin says, yes. And you know what? I was ready to start doing the yes chant, because the Kevin Owens and Seth Rollins match at WrestleMania, yes, it was worth it. It was an awesome match, especially after they restarted it after Rollins hit him with the ring bell. It was an awesome match. And Kevin Owens says it was worth it because he got a WrestleMania moment that he is proud of. But then he said, I need to really refocus myself. And he ends that promo with, because this is the Kevin Owens show. And I'm thinking, yes! That is when Kevin Owens was the best. Think back. Jericho was still here. Kevin Owens did the Kevin Owens show, and he said, after he beat people or after he talked to people, this is the Kevin Owens show. And him and Jericho became buddies. They did the Kevin Owens show together. They did the whole list of friends. That is when Kevin Owens was his best. And I am excited now. I don't know if they're going to come back to it and Kevin Owens and Seth Rollins are going to hook up sometime later. They don't need to do it right now. Seth Rollins needs to rebuild himself, refocus himself. I don't know. I see Seth in the 10 o'clock hour come out. He's totally focused. He's intense. He's walking very slowly down the ring or down the ramp to the ring. And I don't even know who he's facing. But my immediate thought is, I hope Seth Rollins loses. And that will give him an excuse to go away, find himself, reassess himself, and come back as the true Monday Night Messiah, going back to being cocky and arrogant. And he'll have Buddy Murphy by his side. He'll have AOP by his side. And he can put his reign of terror, and he can continue the parallels that, that he has with Jesus, as far as Jesus going away in the Garden of Gethsemane for 40 days. So send Seth Rollins, away and allow him that time where he is thinking and meditating, and we're checking in on him, and he's giving us promos, and we're building him up. We don't need Seth Rollins every single time because we got the Kevin Owens show. But when he comes back, have him work his way up to getting revenge on Kevin Owens, and that can be our SummerSlam moment. Our SummerSlam, we can get another great match out of these two. But yeah, he's not going to lose tonight because they announced that he's taking on Denzel Dazer from NXT, and Seth immediately just gets right to the point and decides to punish him, both inside and outside the ring. The commentators are really portraying him as this angry man that needs to take out his frustrations and get some relief by punishing someone. And then Seth Rollins, of course, hits the curb stomp for the win, and we immediately see Seth roll out of the ring, grab his jacket, and then walk slowly but purposely up the ring very intensely. And I'm thinking, okay, what are we going to do with this? Can he still be the Monday Night Messiah? AOP's still out. They're not sure how long they're going to be out. Buddy Murphy should be back, I would say, in the next week or two. For the simple fact that, they wouldn't allow him around. He had some symptoms. So that's why he's been off. He's been in quarantine. So I'm thinking, what are they going to do with Seth Rollins? And this is where I need to mention plans, because of the coronavirus pandemic, obviously had to totally change here. Seth Rollins and Becky were supposed to be taking some time off, and it's my understanding they were planning on getting married and doing a honeymoon and, going away for a little while, kind of like Finn Balor did. When Finn Balor, he just got married and they went away, I think on a 2 or 3 week honeymoon, and then he came back completely different as the Prince, in NXT. And so I think that's kind of what Seth and Becky possibly had planned, for them to go away to their wedding and everything. Of course, all of that got postponed, and, they're not getting married right now. So they're both planning on staying, so that kind of puts a wrench in things, and WWE Creative really needs to come up with something for Seth Rollins and how he can get back on track. Then we see that Nia Jax is back from her double knee surgery, and she is taking on Deonna Purrazzo from NXT, and I'm thinking, my God, did we call up the whole entire NXT to be fodder for Raw? I mean, come on, Vince McMahon. I know you hate NXT, and you hate what Triple H has built down there, but man, oh man, as soon as they say somebody from NXT, and it doesn't matter what the name, I'm like, okay, they're losing. Because they're just not letting anybody from NXT get over. And I know you guys are going to write me at wrestlingovertime@gmail.com and say, oh, yes, they did. They let Bianca Belair get over. No, 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 no. Bianca Belair is now on the Raw roster. She's no longer NXT. So, no one from NXT is getting over. But anyway, I love that Nia immediately came back smack talking. We could hear it through the microphone, all the stuff she was saying. She was looking to show everybody she was back with power. I loved her moves because she didn't try to do anything fancy. She didn't try to do anything out of her normal moveset. It was pure power, monster type ability, and that's great. That's what we need for right now. And of course, she did a Samoan drop, and then she pulled out a DDT as her finishers, and that's great. I thought that was a great comeback. Then they did a flashback to the Boneyard match. Little shocked at how much of it they showed. They did just show the highlights. When they first started, I thought, oh my God, they're going to show the whole match. But they didn't. They just kind of showed some of the highlights. But I'm shocked that they showed as much as they did, because that was the match of WrestleMania. That's what WrestleMania 36 is going to be known for. It should be known for Drew, but I think it's going to be known as the Boneyard Match WrestleMania. Then we see Humberto Carrillo make his comeback, taking on Brendan Vick from NXT. So guess who's winning? Yeah, Humberto, he rolled up and then did a moonsault, and then he climbed to the top of a ring post and did another moonsault and won. I'm not going into this match detail by detail. It's not worth it. Humberto has not proven himself on the main roster, and he is very green, and you can tell that. He botches some stuff. He doesn't sell well. He really needs some work, and Brendan Vink has the look. I mean, they said he's 6'5", about 260. Yeah, he has the look, but they need to get him going down there in NXT. We flash back to Charlotte Flair versus Rhea Ripley for the NXT Championship. And this, to me, started off WrestleMania Night 2 right on board where it left off on night one. Night one, it left off with the Boneyard match, and they showed us this match, and it was for real. Loved the Flair Ripley match. And I just wonder, why did they do what they did? Why did Charlotte get the belt? I know that there's a couple different stories out there that, Ripley is wanting to go back to Australia because of her family. She hasn't seen them. She's not getting to communicate to them very often. And with the pandemic going on, she's wanting to take a little time off and see her family. Then we've all heard about her work visa is getting ready to expire, and they're not processing those fast enough. As of right now, Rhea Ripley showed on her Instagram she is home. She showed her dogs. She showed her boyfriend making pasta on her Instagram. She is here in Florida, in the United States. But it's just if the paperwork for her work visa is going to go through in time for her to stay, or if she's going to have to leave the country and go back to Australia. If she does, then we really need to think about that as fans, because you're looking at when she flies into Australia, she's going to have to self-quarantine for 14 to 18 days in Australia, get the paperwork going, get it situated, see her family, all of that. Then she's going to have to come back to the United States and probably self-quarantine here for 2 weeks before we're going to see her wrestle. So, she might be gone for 4 to 6 weeks if this work visa doesn't go through. But then the other, conspiracy theory, I guess, that's being put out there is that Charlotte, number one, wanted to be the savior of NXT. She wanted to win the championship. She wants to go back down to NXT and save them and create some, programs down there and get people watching more NXT than AEW. I don't know about you guys. I am not turning off AEW to watch Charlotte. She is DVR. Not saying she's not good. Charlotte is. Charlotte's very good. But she is not a good enough reason for me to turn off everything that's going on in AEW. So, no, Charlotte's not going to get me to switch over to NXT. But she's also going to be part of the Raw brand. That came out, that she doesn't want to give up her Raw status. So she's going to be doing Raw and NXT, especially since they're both going to be going either live or on tape out of Florida. It's just going to make it easy for her. They're filming the same place. So she is basically, just going to be on both brands because there's no travel involved. So what they did, they showed Charlotte's post-match interview, YouTube interview, and Charlotte says immediately, "I don't need your congratulations." And she started talking about her dad. And I thought, man, Charlotte, I thought we were kind of past this. And she talks about how her dad, had custom cars and custom suits and custom this and custom that. And he always told her, though, that it was the man that made the suit. So she says it is the woman that makes the title. And that Ripley was all right in their WrestleMania match, but she finally did what everyone else always does: bow down to the queen. And then she gave us a woo. And I thought, Charlotte, you've held different belts 10, 11 times now. I don't really remember a long run of Charlottes. And I know WWE doesn't seem to do them anymore, but I do remember back in my childhood, Ric Flair holding belts a year, 2 years, taking on all comers. I've read about when he held the NWA belt, he took it to all the different territories and basically is doing what Nick Aldis is doing right now with the NWA belt. And he took on anybody and everybody. Charlotte doesn't do that when she has a belt. Charlotte doesn't travel. Charlotte doesn't take on anybody and everybody. And usually she doesn't hold the belt that long. That's why, she's been here, I would say, about 10 years, maybe less than 10 years, and had the belt 10 times. Think about it. Her dad wrestled for 30 years and is considered one of the top 3 wrestlers of all time, all generations. Wrestled about 30 years and had the belt 16 times. And like I said, they were long. They were a year or two. So I think Charlotte, if she wants to be compared to her dad, I think she needs to quit wooing and start holding the belt and actually working programs with people and building them up. And yes, she comes out a winner and keeps the belt, but that she builds them up. Anyway, we get the flashback to Drew versus Brock again. And I'm thinking, why? Why are we getting this again? Why are we seeing this again? To take up time is the only thing that I can think of. But they immediately say that after WrestleMania went off the air, that Drew came back out. And they show Drew coming out wearing the belt. He is grinning from ear to ear, showing the belt off to the camera. And what they're doing is a post-match interview. And I guess it was going to go up on YouTube, but they decided to do it in the ring. And so he starts his interview and says that, he's only held the belt for 20 minutes and it hasn't really hit him. He hasn't even had time to talk to his family and let them know and really think, I've reached my mountain that I've been climbing. I've finally obtained the championship. But he says the one thing I did do that made me kind of get it is I asked them to change the plates. And he shows the belt where they have taken off Brock Lesnar's plates and put his plates on the belt. And Drew says that he's going to do something really weird and unusual and that people are going to think is crazy, but that he wants to thank Paul Heyman. And he looks and he says, I know you guys think that's crazy, but I do need to thank Paul Heyman because by Paul Heyman standing, ringside and saying for Brock to continue to F5 me, that eventually I wouldn't be able to get back up, that I got angry. And he said, that I used that anger and that every F5 that Brock picked me up, I got more and more angry and I used that for my victory. And he's starting to get into his character. He's starting to give a very good promo, very good interview, and Big Show's music hits. And he comes out with a referee. And he says, that Drew just isn't a giant. And immediately I think, well, Big Show, you look good. You appear to be in shape. You're looking probably the best I've seen you in years. And I know that April 6th, today, of Monday Night Raw, Netflix put out his new show. the Big Show's show. And I think he's out there going to promote that. No, he says that, he doesn't want to wait until Money in the Bank or to work his way up or anything. He just wants to go now. And he says, we've got a referee and I'm in my ring gear, you're in your ring gear, let's go. And Drew says, no. I just got done with a battle with Brock Lesnar. I just won this. I want to enjoy it. And he says, well, what about all that stuff you said about being a fighting champion and you climbing the mountain and going through all this pain? And Drew says, look, I'm not afraid of you. I know you think that I'm afraid of you. I'm not. I have been here, done this. I'm not a newbie. I'm not a bit afraid of you. And you're trying to push my buttons because I'm Scottish. And you know that if I get mad, then I'm liable to do something. Well, Big Show hauls off and slaps Drew. Well, Drew then takes off the belt and decides to do something. So they ring the bell and Big Show goes on the offensive, and he actually, for the first time in years, acts like, I want to be in this match. I want that belt. I actually want to wrestle. Maybe he took enough time and he got in a good enough shape that he feels better and that he truly wants to wrestle again. I don't know. But I thought it was awesome seeing the different offensive moves he got going. Drew was selling really well that he was tired and that the Big Show was doing damage with his chops and with, hitting him with his fists and everything. Show at one time was doing a lot of power slams, and Drew was selling his back, of course, where he had also gotten hit with the F5. Big Show was doing a lot of chokes in the rope to the count of 4 and then breaking, and he actually got Drew into a choke slam position, and as he lifted him up, then Drew's kind of slipped behind him, and he actually picked up the Big Show and slammed him. Well, the Big Show then basically came back and got Drew in the choke slam and actually slammed him. And then he went for his KO punch, his right hand, and Drew ducked, which allowed him enough space to turn around off the ropes and Claymore. Big Show for the win, and Show really sold the Claymore exactly. I mean, exactly like Brock did. He was basically out in the middle of the ring, and he solidified, I think, how good they're making Drew look right now and how he is the new monster. And I think that's awesome. I really, really do. I think that's awesome. And I hope that they allow Drew to build up some kind of program with someone. I don't know who it can be or who they want it to be for SummerSlam. I hope that Drew keeps the belt until next WrestleMania, and then we kind of see where to go. But I want some stability. I don't want Drew giving this belt up and then getting it back, or him giving it up and then the person he gives it up to gives it up. I don't want to see 4 more champions the rest of this year. I think unless something changes, I would be happy with Drew definitely keeping it till SummerSlam and possibly keeping it a whole year until Summer or WrestleMania of April of next year. I think that'd be fine. What do you guys think? you guys need to tell me what's going on. What do you guys think of WrestleMania? What do you think of Raw tonight? What do you think of them putting the Street Profits on for so long and trying to sell them, and then Black and Apollo Crews going for so long, and the new tag team of Cedric Alexander and Ricochet? And what did you think about Drew taking on Big Show right after WrestleMania? You guys need to write me at WrestleMania, or here I am trying to give you the WrestleMania address. You guys need to write me at WrestleOvertime@gmail.com, or hit me up on Twitter or on our Facebook page at Wrestling Overtime, and tell me what you guys think. I want to hear from you guys. Thank you guys for listening and supporting me and writing me and everything. I'm really getting into everything with you guys and can't wait to go on the next road, basically to SummerSlam, and getting ready for Money in the Bank. I'll talk to you guys soon.